Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Joining me today is the Megan and the Helen. So we just got done watching the first episode of the new Netflix series of Series of Unfortunate Events. We had read the books out loud to each other last year before.
Like year and a half ago.
All 13 books. Loved it. It was wonderful. The man has Lemony Snicket has this wonderful sense of the ridiculous. He can bring it about in such a way that it's a very logical ridiculous, not simply ridiculous for ridiculousness' sake. Um, so we both came at the series kinda apprehensive because we'd seen the failure of the movie
Yeah,
with Jim Carrey. The best part about it was the hair porn from the gal who played Violet Baudelaire.
it's true.
And she went on to do, oh gosh, that one movie that I can't remember, where she's a samurai Japanese schoolgirl in a mental institution. And she went by the name of Sugar Baby. Can't remember that off the top of my head. That's bad. But that's all people really remembered is that Jim Carrey was in it, and he. It's like they just let him go to town with whatever he wanted and ignore the fact that this story was taking place. But Netflix series, pretty much. This had that same level of very logical ridiculousness that the books held. Just from the opening scenes where you see that transition to obvious miniatures and the cool little fire truck going through, that's obviously a miniature version, but there's live people beside it in the trolley car. That very real but obviously fake feeling pervades the entire show.
It's like a just so fairy tale, but dark and beautiful. The cinematography is wonderful.
Yes.
You have to watch. You can't even look down to eat your popcorn or anything. You have to watch every little thing because there are details everywhere. Especially look at signs, look at symbols in the background. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we found out that Patrick Warburton is the narrator, and my first thought was, Kronk, what are you doing here? Usually a very cheerful character, usually, a voice that, ugh, his voice is wonderful. Um, but he's the narrator through this, and even he is kind of a prop to the Baudelaire, a good prop, not just an aesthetic voice outside of what's going on. With his costume changes, with his interaction with the scenery, he shows that he's becoming Lemony Snicket and not just being a narrator of a book by Lemony Snicket. And then Neil Patrick Harris as Count Olaf.
I'm warming up to it.
There, his performance was a little underwhelming, but that might be because we're coming from Jim Carrey as the prototype for Count Olaf.
That could be.
Um, I'm glad he gets to sing because Neil Patrick Harris, when he gets to throw his voice out there is when he really comes into his own. He couldn't even do How I Met Your Mother without throwing in a song.
Of course.
Um, and that's a talent. I'm glad we're bringing a musical aspect back into modern television because we just lost that.
I like how they presented his theater troupe, though. They're a lot more true to book, which, from what I've read online, is supposed to be true to book. They didn't even watch the video watch the movie to refresh themselves on this. They only read the books. Bless you. It's wonderful.
Yes. Like Megan mentioned, there's a lot of small, subtle things. Like Count Olaf can't understand Sonny at all, yet the hook-handed man can.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've read the series, if you love a series of unfortunate events more than just the movie, there's so much to look for. I mean, when someone says I want this to be turned into a movie and they want that 17-hour long marathon,
This is it.
That's what this is feeling like. I mean, there's the sense of things 4 or 5 books down the line that are happening now, and I have to bring this up just because this is such a pet peeve of mine when directors invent their own thing. Even the stuff that they invented for this thus far, I'm not as offended by. There's a couple of scenes with the narrator, a couple of scenes with, well, I guess we have to call him Lemony Snicket because that's who he is.
Yeah.
A couple of scenes where it's like, okay, that wasn't in the book, but I'm still on the fence, but I'm not hating it right off the bat as I want to do.
Right.
So scale of 1 to 10.
10, 9.5 maybe.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, and we don't give out perfect scores. We are very critical. We don't.
This was us the entire time.
Especially when we found out that we own a device they used as a prop.
Oh yeah.
We might show you in another video. Because it's awesome.
Is it possible to pause this and start again?
Why would we do that?
I could go run and grab it.
We'll go run and grab it. We'll keep talking. The internet will wait for you, the Megan. Okay, so we found this thing when we were learning how to can last year. What did you find at the Ark?
This? No, this was at Richard's.
Richard's, yes, one of our favorite antique stores by where we live. Okay, so you'll notice when the Baudelaires are serving pasta puttanesca to Count Olaf and the theater troupe, Klaus is serving the pasta with this thing, which is...
It's actually a canning... when you're canning things, you need to pull it out of the water bath, then... that.
But it's also good when you need to look intimidating. Because the stuff they use nowadays for canning just looks weird. I didn't know what it was until I saw my mom use it. But then I saw this thing. I knew exactly what it was for. It was for the crane game. With canning stuff. And apparently now we can serve pasta with it. So, series of unfortunate events on Netflix. Absolutely worth watching. Wonderful. I mean, I'd been in a bit of a show hole and in between shows on Netflix, and then Megan showed me The Paradise, and then we'd both been waiting for this, a series of unfortunate events, because there's something about seeing Neil Patrick Harris in character that said he could do that. It's not as overly dramatic, but I think that's part of Lemony Snicket's power, is there's nothing hugely over dramatic about his work. If he wants to describe darkness, he'll just give you 2 pages that are completely filled in with black. If he wants to make sure that you never, ever, 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 ever do something, he will give you 2 pages of the word ever to make sure you know not to play with this thing. You understand it, but it's ridiculous. It's not a huge gesture because it's just copy and paste, but it stands out. So go back and read the books too. That's also good to follow along with the books while you're watching, except you can't because then you'll miss all the details Megan was talking about.
Right, so do the thing separately, but do the thing.
Do both of the things. All right, that's it for us this time around. We'll see you after the next episode we watch.